Okay, this is going to be my last video of the year. So this will be the last video to go up on my channel as I am trying to hit my goal of 200k subscribers by the end of the year. So this is a call to action for if you have not done it already. If that goal has not been met, I suppose it's possible it has, but I doubt it. This is like the last day that this can happen. So hit the subscribe button to help me reach the goal of 200k subscribers by the end of the year. Subscription is much appreciated. All of that. This video is going to be my reaction, or not my reaction, my take on who is the most underrated player on every team in the NBA. Pretty self-explanatory. I've done this a couple of times now, but I like to do it like once a year as the rosters change up. So it's what I'm doing. Let's get into it. I have no idea what to say now because I just did a whole subscribe to me spiel thing. So I guess we'll just start with the Brooklyn Nets. For the Brooklyn Nets, this is kind of a cheat because they just signed him on a hardship exception, but I believe that Langston Galloway is a quality NBA player, and the fact that he is a hardship exception is kind of ridiculous. Langston is a really good three-point shooter who has shown that he is capable of creating offense for himself as well. I'm not saying he's some really good player, but the fact that he's not even like an NBA rotation player to me is a little ridiculous. For the Chicago Bulls, their most underrated player is Derrick Jones Jr. Derrick has just been a huge surprise for the Bulls this year, and honestly, he's my favorite breakout guy among some of the bench players who've been surprisingly good. He's been particularly good when he's running as the small ball 5, and when the Bulls run that lineup, it's a lot of fun and it's really fucking effective. For the Cleveland Cavaliers, Isaac Okoro. Honestly, Isaac has been a little bit disappointing in his NBA career because his offense has been so rough, which was kind of expected, but there was hope to be some strides and that hasn't really happened. But Isaac is so good defensively, and a lot of the credit for the defense has gone to Evan Mobley and Jarrett Allen, and rightfully so. But with Isaac on top of those other two guys, they have like one of the greatest defensive ratings of all time with all three of them on the floor. Now, the fucking spacing is awful. Isaac Okoro is an incredibly good defensive player. For the Milwaukee Bucks, Dante DiVincenzo. I don't think it is properly appreciated how much potential Dante DiVincenzo has to be one of the better role players in the NBA. He's a pretty capable three-point shooter, really good cutter, pretty good defender, just kind of fits really anything that you'd want out of him. For the Miami Heat, Max Strus. Him as well as Gabriel Vincent, I guess you could kind of pair them together. Started off like it had, the Heat don't really have that many bench players, but maybe one of those guys could be good. But they're just like awesome. They're like both really good. So like at this point, it's not like they could be. They're both good. Max especially is really good. He looks like the Winter Soldier. Pretty cool. He's not like, he doesn't have the hair, but like he looks like Sebastian Stan is my point. For the Philadelphia 76ers, Tyrese Maxey. I feel like I should say that my ranking comes down to the league as a whole and not within the individual fan base, because among Sixers fans, obviously Tyrese Maxey is not underrated. They're talking about the guy constantly, but NBA fans at large, he's definitely slept on a little bit. He's one of the better young guards in the league. For the Washington Wizards, Deni Avdija. Deni has been one of the better defensive wings in the league, and I don't see a single soul talking about it, which I kind of understand, but it's true. Deni has been really good defensively, and that's with him coming into the league not really being expected to be much of a defensive player. And some of his offense hasn't really panned out, so it's nice to see him go in another direction where it's like, hey, at least he's bringing some real value out there. For the Charlotte Hornets, Kelly Oubre Jr. Kelly is third in the NBA in three-point makes. After an absolutely fucking abysmal season with the Golden State Warriors last year, Kelly has completely turned it around, and if not for Tyler Hero running away with the award, Kelly Oubre would be Sixth Man of the Year right now. For the Boston Celtics, I am going to go with Al Horford. I have said a million times now that Al Horford is good, and stop acting like he's bad because he had a bad year with the Sixers where the circumstances were not ideal. Now, Al has actually had a little bit of a slump lately, so it's poor timing for me to have that take, but I still believe it to be true in spite of that slump, so suck a dick. For the Toronto Raptors, Fred VanVleet is probably a borderline all-star level guy, and I don't see a single person talking about it. Fred is up to 20 and like 8 assists per game right now, I think it is, and his efficiency is the best it's been in his career. and he's just been by far and away the Raptors' best player, and he deserves more credit for how good he has been. Efficiency has been like his worst thing because he's a smaller guard, but he's shooting like well above 40% from the field, which he has not done in a long time, if not ever. So he's been a lot more efficient, and the production has been up on top of that. For the Atlanta Hawks, Clint Capella is like the most essential part of this team after Trae Young. Now, actually kind of looking at it from a different angle, he has been not that great this year. So it's weird where it's like, because he's not been great, it shows just how impactful he was, but how much credit do I give for him when he's not being great now? So I don't know, I might talk myself out of that one. For the New York Knicks, Obi Toppin. Every single fucking time I see Obi Toppin on the floor when I watch a Knicks game, he does something good, like consistently. There's also like a lot of plays that the Knicks run where they just throw the ball vaguely around the rim. Now, I'm not even saying it's necessarily an alley-oop. It can be an alley-oop, but it's not necessarily. But every fucking time that happens, it results in good stuff around the rim. He has a good catch radius, and he'll either put it up or he'll bring the ball down and find a way to finish. One way or the other, he's really good, and I feel like he needs to get a proper team where he'd have more opportunity, or just get rid of Julius Randle because he sucks this year. I might be overselling it a little bit, but just every time I see Obi Toppin, good things happen. For the Indiana Pacers, Justin Holiday is one of the best 3-and-D wings in the league, and any contender level team better be looking to trade for him. The weird situation with the fire sale with the Indiana Pacers, where they also have some fucking role players that are worth trading for with him, as well as TJ McConnell. So they might actually end up having more impact on the trade market depending on who trades for them. For the Orlando Magic, I could not choose between Wendell Carter Jr. or Cole Anthony. Cole Anthony, I think, is probably a little bit more underrated because I don't know how many people really know that Cole Anthony is averaging 20 points per game on good efficiency this year, and he's also like a good defender and a capable playmaker. But I also don't know how many people are aware that Wendell Carter Jr. has been really, really good this year as well, and he's hitting threes, and his offense looks way more well-rounded, and his defense is still fantastic, so I kind of have to give it to both of them. For the Detroit Pistons, their most underrated player is Saben Lee. Saben Lee was a second-round pick, and he was really, really good last year for a second-round guard. He hasn't been good this year, but I really couldn't pick anybody else that I thought was particularly underrated. So Saben Lee, get better this year, and then this take will age well. For the Phoenix Suns, JaVale McGee is quietly having a career year, and no one is talking about it because it's JaVale McGee. Also, if you look up his per 36 numbers, JaVale McGee has some of the wildest per 36 stats of all time. This year, as one of the standouts, he is averaging 24 points, 17 rebounds, 2 blocks, and 6 fouls per game. And last year, it was 10 games and very limited minutes, so it's way blown out of proportion, but he did average 8 fouls per game per 36, and that's just fucking hilarious. So, shout out JaVale McGee. For the Golden State Warriors, Juan Toscano-Anderson is like weirdly one of my favorite players in the league. Juan is a really good playmaker for a forward, which is one of his more slept on abilities. His defense is pretty fucking good. His 3-ball can be iffy sometimes, but he's also a really good finisher. I just love Juan Toscano-Anderson. He's like everything that I like in a role player, balled up into one guy. And it's like, he's just so good. I really like Juan Toscano-Anderson. For the Utah Jazz, Royce O'Neal. Royce is like the only capable point of attack defender that the Utah Jazz have, other than kind of a little bit Mike Conley. But overall, they really need wing defenders, and he's the only guy who's actually a good wing defender on the team. And he's kind of carrying the load there, and he's not good enough to do it individually, but at least somebody's trying. For the Memphis Grizzlies, Desmond Bane. I fucking told you, I told all of you that Desmond Bane would be good before he even joined the league. It's my best draft take. I'm really happy about it. I know Rudy's happy about it because he's on his team. Desmond Bane is really fucking good. He's also averaging like 17 points per game this year, by the way, in case you didn't know. For the Denver Nuggets, Will Barton has been the player to step up in the absence of everybody else. It hasn't been enough, but he's averaging like 17 a game, I believe, at least last I checked. So at least somebody is doing something offensively outside of Jokic, even though most of Barton's buckets are set up by Jokic, but that's just the nature of the team. I have been recording for 55 consecutive minutes, but we're gonna power through. For the Los Angeles Clippers, we have Luke Kennard. Luke, when I made a video talking about the Clippers going into this year, I said that Luke Kennard as well as Terrence Mann could potentially be some breakout players for the team when they're in need of somebody breaking out. Terrence Mann kind of disappointing this year, but Luke Kennard has been a really big source of offense for a team that desperately needs it. For the Los Angeles Lakers, Malik Monk is underrated drastically by his own fucking team. Like, the fact that he is not clearly the starter every night, night in, night out, it's ludicrous. Malik Monk is the best shooting guard on that team, and it's not close. Not only is he better than Talen Horton-Tucker, but he is a way better fit. So that whole situation is really fucking stupid. Almost there. For the Minnesota Timberwolves, Jared Vanderbilt has been kind of the quarterback of that defense, or rather, that's more been D'Angelo Russell, which is also insanely underrated fact about them. But Jared Vanderbilt has been one of the better, like, all-defensive kind of guys this year, and he's not talked about because A, it's the Timberwolves, and B, he is Jared Vanderbilt, but really, really, really good defensive forward. For the Dallas Mavericks, Jalen Brunson has been one of the few upsides for that team this year. He's been entrusted to do more stuff offensively, which I have been asking for him for the last 2 years. So it's nice to finally see that be the case. Sometimes I think he's actually asked to do too much at this point, but he's a really solid NBA guard. For the Portland Trail Blazers, Anthony Simons is secretly one of the not only 6th Man of the Year candidates, but most improved player candidates. I don't think he's like a top 6th Man of the Year candidate, but he's been one of the better bench players in the league for the Portland Trail Blazers, at least when he has come off of the bench because they've had so many injuries at guard this year. But Anthony is a pretty damn solid player. He's a good three-point shooter, and really that's been the main thing. But it's just like kind of what he already had as a building block. He's just been doing it a lot better and a lot more efficiently and a lot more consistently than he did last year. For the Sacramento Kings, I decided to choose Terrence Davis, but it's not really like a solid pick. Terrence he had like a 4-game stretch where he was getting starters minutes and he averaged 20 points per game, which is what inspired that take, but can't really think of anybody in particular. For the Spurs, I'm going to make the unpopular take here and say Keldon Johnson. I understand that DeJounte Murray is also underrated, but I feel like there's so many people saying that DeJounte Murray is underrated that he then, by extension, ends up not actually being that underrated, if you know what I mean. It's kind of like the Mike Conley situation, where perpetually considered the most underrated player in the league. If everybody considers you the most underrated player in the league, are you actually that underrated? I don't think so. For the OKC Thunder, Lou Dort. Yet another player who is averaging like 17 points per game and nobody fucking knows about it. And he's doing it really efficiently. And he's not a bad three-point shooter anymore. And he's one of the best wing defenders in the game, on top of the fact that he's a 17 point per game scorer. So Lou Dort is like a god tier role player right now, who potentially could be building into being a star level player. It's just absolute insane development from him offensively, because he went from an offensive 0 to better than most NBA players offensively. He also shoots 70% of the basket, and he's 6'3". Ridiculous. For the Houston Rockets, Eric Gordon has been a huge factor in that team being much better and going on that big win streak. Like, a big part of it was just his shots that he takes normally actually started dropping. Eric Gordon is one of those players who sometimes takes really stupid shots, but they went in at least on that stretch, and that's been a big part of their success. And last but not least, for the New Orleans Pelicans, I have Jonas Valanciunas as their most underrated player. Jonas is averaging like 19 and 12 and really efficient. And I've always thought that he was kind of an underappreciated big man. I especially thought that when he was on the Memphis Grizzlies. Unfortunately, him and Brandon Ingram are the only guys on this team that can score the fucking ball. So not really a winning formula, but at least he's putting up buckets in the way that I like to see him do it. So that's cool. But yeah, I guess, should I do like an end of year, the year is over sappy thing? No, I'm not going to do it. Subscribe, please. I always appreciate you for watching, especially for watching to this point in the video. And yeah, so appreciate Rudy for editing these videos all year. Isn't that wholesome? So shout out to him for editing this video, and this is the first full year where he's been like my employee the whole time, doing the full edit for a full year. So that's pretty fucking cool. Shout out to him. That is the end of this video. Please be sure to like and subscribe for more NBA content like this, and cue the outro music.